Reilly. Hope you're all doing very well this Monday morning. It is a November 14th, 2022. So here we are. I hope you had a nice weekend. What am I going to do with you today? Well, as you can see above the screen, we've got pronunciation, expressions, news, vocabulary in association with LK Formación, tailor-made solutions for your business. Check out the website lekformacion.com. Okay, so let me just run through what I have for you today. Of course, we're going to do the news wrap-up and roundup of what happened just before I left you last week and before we enter the weekend. Then we're going to be looking at our word of the day, which will include idiom of the day, phrasal verb of the day, what else? A bit of slang and also an expression. After that, I want to look at human resources. We're going to look at what makes you unique. So, and often a question, you're doing your interview and what will they do? They'll say, okay, forget your resume. What makes you unique? Well, we're going to look at ways that people have advised how to answer this question. Also, then we have non-verbal communication. How important is it nowadays that a lot of us are moving into working remotely? And then we have 5 things to remember if you're going to work moving abroad, if you're going to move to a different country. 5 things to remember if you're moving into a new job abroad. Bit of advice. And then a novel way to look at how you can make your CV different from everybody else. A way to catch the eye of the hiring manager. Okay, so let's move in, and the first thing I want to do is, of course, it is morning coffee with me, James O Reilly, every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 8:30 in the morning, Central European Time, CET. That's the acronym. And most importantly is to have your coffee ready. I'm here to help you with different parts of your English. I hope I'm speaking clearly enough for all of you to understand. Many thanks to all of you new connectors with me on LinkedIn. I'm here to just help you improve your English in every way, but in a relaxed way, okay? Well, I'm not going to be preaching at you. You must do this. This is a relaxed way. You can walk away from your computer. You can listen to me, and I'm here just to help you improve your listening, every part of your English, without talking at you. I want to talk with you guys, and you're more than welcome on YouTube to get involved in the conversation. You can leave your messages, and also here in LinkedIn, I will get back to you. I'll try and have a look at those messages towards the end of the stream. Right, so let me get into it. I'm going to get rid of this. This is the difficult part for me now, to get rid of some of these images. Perfect. Okay, we're going to be looking at the news. And of course, one thing I almost forget to do is to make myself a bit smaller here. So I'll just minimize myself here, and we're going to look at the news of the morning from when we were sleeping, okay? So here we have a picture of let's get into it. Slovenia has a new president, and this is the new president. We'll get to her name in a moment. Let me just double check something. Yeah, perfect. Slovenia has a new president. The presidential elections that have just ended have written several stories. And this is an article from Nesenzure Rano. Okay, that's a Slovenian newspaper, and I'm very sorry. Again, you'll notice I have problems pronouncing words from different country. I'll do my best. I don't mean to cause any offense. Anyway, from this newspaper, the first and most important is the victory of Natasha Pirc-Musar. With her, Slovenia obtained its first woman president, and that it's a symbolic milestone has finally fallen. So for a lot of these countries, it's very important for them to get a first in something. And in this case, it's a first woman president. But it must be stated that in Slovenia, like in many different countries, the role of the president is merely ceremonial. The main person that is in control of the country in Slovenia is the Prime Minister, the PM. Like in the UK, they have a PM, and their ceremonial roles are generally taken by the royal family. Where I'm from myself, in Ireland, the president again is a ceremonial role, and the Taoiseach or the Prime Minister is the person with the power. So often people can get confused and go, oh wow, that's so great, Slovenia has a new role for a woman, she's running the country. Not so in this case, whereas on the other hand, we have in Italy the new Prime Minister who will have more control is a woman. Not so much celebrated because she's very far, I believe she is the granddaughter of the ex-fascist dictator Benito Mussolini. So not so many people celebrating the fact that she is the first woman prime minister in Italy, because it's not so, it's not so cool. But she has a more important role. All the same, a milestone is something we like to say in English. These were the old markers on the road when you were traveling. Every mile there would be a stone marked with a number. So we call these milestones. Now we relate them to our personal lives, our careers, in the country, for example. So in your career, perhaps a milestone is an important point that you have reached in your working career, in your life. So you will hear this expression very often in English, milestone. It's an important point in your life or your career. Here it's related to a massacre that happened in Connecticut. 10 years later, a memorial in Newtown, which was the scene of a massacre which took the lives of 20 elementary school children and 6 adults in December 2012. A small town in Connecticut, and what they have done is they have created a memorial park so that parents and people can go and be alone and be alone with their thoughts to remember the children and the adults that were sadly killed in that massacre in Sandy Hook in Connecticut, in the northeast of the United States. And yes, it's a place where they can be away from road traffic, but not too isolated from daily life. So a place for privacy for the families. So that is something that has been in the news recently because of a radio presenter saying that it was fake news, there was no massacre, nobody died, and he just lost a court battle where now he has to pay certain amount of billions of dollars. So that has been in the news for a long time in the United States, since 2012. A monster demonstration in Mexico against electoral reform. In power since 2018, Andrés Manuel López Obrador wants to make reforms to the National Election Institute, and therefore caused a big protest of people waving flags, blankets, banners, t-shirts in favor of the National Election Institute, because I think a lot of people see when you start messing with the Election Institute, it means that why are you messing with this? Why are you trying to change it? In all honesty, he could have proper reasons. Sometimes constitutions do need to be changed because they are old or outdated, or the Election Institute needs to be changed because it's old and outdated. But a lot of people don't trust politicians. You can understand why, I suppose. So that was a big protest in Mexico. Where was it exactly? Yes, in the center of Mexico. Mexico City. And finally, box office hit for Wakanda Forever. So box office hit is when you have in the cinema. If it's a box office hit, it means that it is a hit is a very popular, a success. 4 years after Black Panther, which had already triumphed in theaters, the sequel, which is the next film, still produced by Disney and its subsidiary Marvel, subsidiary would be Filial, I think, swept up $180 million during the weekend of its North American release. A release is when you launch something, you release it, especially for films and music. To release something is to launch it. Wakanda Forever also grossed $150 million or $150 million internationally. Okay. Right, so that's it. Another thing you'll also hear about films is it's a blockbuster. Blockbuster is a huge success in films, and the way it got its name blockbuster, I heard recently, is because you have in what are called in the United States is a block of buildings, which here in Spain often is known as una manzana. And in the United States, we'll call that a block. And a blockbuster got its name because if there was a queue, or if there were a queue, no, if there was in this case, if there was a queue of people which went snaked, it's a good verb, to snake around a building. If it snaked all the way around the block, that was a really it showed that the film was a success. So this is where we get the name blockbuster. Okay, I learned that recently, and I think it's pretty cool. And often, a big success in English films or in films in general will be known as a blockbuster. There you go. All right, so that's what I wanted to look at there. Of course, we heard about what happened in Turkey yesterday, which is a real tragedy. But I'm sure you guys already know about that. We're not going to go into that news. What I did want to look at was from Friday's wrap-up. Let me try and get that there for you. And we'll go down to that because that is something I wanted to... There we go. Friday's wrap-up. All right, let's get into it. Yes, here we go. So we have the COP27 going on in Egypt. The number of fossil... so this is in relation to the environment. Fossil fuel lobbyists increasing at climate summit COP. Lobbyists are people who are trying to influence people with donations, for example. So when you lobby someone, if I'm correct, okay, I'm just like you guys, I'm trying to at the same time remember. But to lobby is perhaps food groups. If I am a big food company, I will lobby the government. I will pay. I will give donations. Where do you want me to put the money? And that way, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. So this is lobbying. So the number of lobbyists advocating for the fossil fuel industry. Let me try and... Can I make it bigger? No. The number of lobbyists advocating for fossil fuel industry in attendance at the United Nations Climate Conference COP27 has increased on last year's figure by 25%. An analysis has found. This is a very difficult word for a lot of people in English. The pronunciation is analysis. Analysis. So just say the na as the most important stress. So it's like if you almost pronounce it like, oh, what is it? It's analysis. Almost like analysis. Analysis. I do understand it's difficult to pronounce, but that is maybe a way I can help you. The stress is on the na. Analysis. Has found 25%, some 600 36 lobbyists for the industry are attending, more than the total number of representatives for the 10 countries most affected by climate change. So this is kind of worrying, I suppose, when you have fossil fuel industry lobbyists going and trying to influence at the COP. Next is the tech sector. LinkedIn news reports that bankruptcy is not off the table, Musk tells Twitter staff. So this means bankruptcy is off the table, means it's not going to happen. It's off the table. But he says bankruptcy is not off the table. So he's telling them, let's have a look. Elon Musk has warned Twitter staff, that's the employees, that bankruptcy is not out of the question for the company, which faces a negative cash flow of several $billions, the Financial Times reports. The news comes after Twitter's heads of trust and safety, information security and privacy all resigned. So a lot of people leaving Twitter. The idea was he would go in, he would allow free speech to be, because there was a lot of complaints that Twitter was controlling people too much. He was going to go in and free Twitter of all this control, but a lot of people have left. Let's see what happens there. We looked before at some alternatives to Twitter, but this just could be some what we call teething problems. Teething problems are problems that happen at the beginning of something, and it comes from children. These are your teeth, and when babies are growing their teeth, it's called teething. Teething, Teething. And we relate this to problems in the beginning. We say, no, it's just teething problems. So perhaps it's teething problems at the beginning of his takeover. We'll see. We're going to. This guy is always in the news, so we'll keep our eye on that. Well-being. What to consider when creating a compassionate leave policy. Compassionate leave can help staff after they experience a loss. So, well-being is your bienestar. Compassionate leave would be allowing you to take time off work if you have lost somebody. If somebody has died, if somebody's been killed, if so, you know, your parents or something like this, somebody dies, you are grieving, you're in bereavement, and your company says, okay, you have so much time. So much means, in this case, means this amount of time. You have 3 days, you have a week, you have as long as you want. It depends. So let's read what it says. Compassionate leave can help staff after they experience a loss. Write these policies in a direct and informal style. Don't define closeness to the deceased. Explicitly mention miscarriage to break taboo, and consider phased returns or flexible hours to work making. Okay, what to consider when... okay, so if you are creating a policy as human resources, for example, this is what you should do. So write these policies in a direct and informal style. Don't define closeness to the deceased. Explicitly mention miscarriage to break the taboo. Oh yeah, so okay. Miscarriage is when a woman is pregnant and her body rejects the baby. At some point during the pregnancy, this is known as a miscarriage, and this has been taboo for a long time. It is something that is not talked about. Often people don't let people know. Don't tell people that they are pregnant or their partner is pregnant until a certain amount of time has passed. And in that time, it is quite common, very, very common indeed, that the woman will lose the child. It's very common. And often people don't talk about this. It's taboo. This is called a miscarriage. And now people are trying to break taboo. And in this case, they are telling human resources to use the word miscarriage so as to break the taboo. We should be openly talking about this. It shouldn't be something we hide from people. It should be open. You have lost a child, even though the child is not being born. It's very important to you, and you may ask for compassionate leave, or your job will give you compassionate leave. Consider phased returns or flexible hours to make going back to work easier. Okay, so in this picture above, you have the man and the woman. She looks like they have lost somebody. So phased returns would be, okay, look, just come back on Mondays and Thursdays. And then after that, you can come back 3 days a week, 4 days a week. So this is a phased in phases. And flexible hours, you know what that is, making work easier. Okay, it'd be interesting to know what type of policy your job has on compassionate leave. How do they organize it? In my case, I had compassionate leave when my mother died. They gave me time off. It was a certain amount of time, but in this case, it wasn't phased coming back. It was strict. Okay, you have this time, and that's quite normal. We accept that, but maybe some people need more time if it affects them in a different way. We are all different people. Moving on. Now let's look at idea of the day. Winter light can disrupt your days and evenings. Okay, if you thought winter messed with your sleep, you would be right, says Faye Beghetti. This low sleep quality can reduce our willpower and increase procrastination as well. If you thought, okay, so people complaining that winter messes with their sleep, they don't sleep so well during winter, and this sleep quality can reduce your willpower. It makes you a bit lazy. You just don't want to work. Your willpower. When you will something, it's want to do something. And increased procrastination as well. A lot of you, I think, Spanish speakers, procrastination is a similar word. But another phrasal verb to procrastinate, more common in English, is to say to put things off. So a meeting. Let's put it off until tomorrow. The it is the meeting, whatever you're talking about. To put something off. Our brain syncs our alertness using brightness levels in our surroundings. Less light during the day, but more artificial lights at night can cause our internal clock to become confused. Okay, maybe. I'm not sure about this. Where I grew up, there wasn't much light at all, so, you know. But, yeah, I suppose in winter it's... people are just less motivated, maybe, because the weather's not so good, you know. But anyway, that's that. Let me know what you guys think. You can leave a message for me in YouTube or here on LinkedIn as well. Today's debate: should we put the interview process in the job ad? Okay, interesting. It could be something simple on the bottom of the job description that says 1 phone screen followed by 2 Zoom interviews. It also would be a way a company could sell itself for having a fast and efficient process. Process. Naming the process would eliminate companies that aren't serious about making a hire because they probably haven't thought out the process. Okay, I think it is a situation for a lot of people. They find themselves doing a lot of interviews. They weren't prepared to, they thought, just being unsure about how the interview process goes. And it's better to know how it goes, better to know in the job description how much they are offering. Then you can decide, okay, it's not enough for me, or fantastic. And also the interview process will be how many processes will be going along, how quick will they be hiring, what are their dates for hiring? Is it like, well, we're just waiting for the right candidate? That means they haven't any pressure. Or is it we need to have somebody by the end of the month? Excuse me. So That is an interesting one for a lot of people. Now I want to get rid of this. How can I get rid of it? Cancel. Right, so let's move on then. I want to go to word of the day. But first, just to remind you, it is coffee time with me, James O Reilly. Morning coffee. Thank you very much. And let's get some into us. Again, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. At 8:30 to 9:30, we are now going to look at our idiom of the day. And let's jump into it. Hope you all had a nice weekend. Remember, I'm here just helping you with your listening and all different aspects of English in a relaxed way. We'll just, excuse me, look at different things that's going on in the news. And soon we'll be changing the style as well. I'm also going to be putting up short videos on LinkedIn and YouTube as well, just 15 seconds, 30 seconds that you can look at. And here we're just taking kind of like a radio show style, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, just to be on and improve your listening, help you with different aspects and so on. Let's look at our idiom of the day. If I close this window. Under the weather. If you are under the weather, you are not feeling well. Okay. Often you might say, Paul isn't here today. He called. He said he's feeling a bit under the weather. He's feeling under the weather, not feeling well. Let's have a look. This is a Japanese name, it looks like, for me. Hiroko's feeling a bit under the weather. He thinks he might have the flu. Okay, so at the beginning, you're not feeling great. Often we say this in English, I don't feel great. I often say that when something is about to start happen. I don't use the expression, I feel a bit under the weather. I don't use that too much. I often say, I don't feel great. But under the weather, yeah, you can absolutely use it. Sorry, I don't think I'll be able to make it to work today. I'm feeling a bit under the weather. Right, I want to highlight this expression here. To make it. Okay? Especially for Spanish students. If you want to say, I won't be able to attend the meeting, I won't be able to assist the meeting, because you're saying asistir. We often use this phrasal verb right in front of you here, to make it. I won't be able to make it. Means I won't be able to come. So if we're talking about anything, going out, going to a meeting, going to your birthday party, whatever it is, if you're not able to go, if you're not able to come, if you're not able to attend, if you're not able to assist, most commonly in English, we will use this phrasal verb in front of you. I won't be able to make it to your birthday party. I won't be able to make it to the meeting. I won't be able to. The train is leaving in 10 minutes. James, I'm in traffic. I'm not going to be able to make. I'm not going to be able to make the train. I'm going to miss the train. I won't be able to make it. I won't make it. Okay, very, very common and a very useful phrasal verb if you remember something from this class. And if you want to say, will you be able to make it to the meeting? Try and use that one today. It's a great one. It really is a great one, and it's something that you're going to use all your life. So get used to it now if possible. Try and use that one today. That's my recommendation for today. All right, let's go back. That was our idiom of the day. Under the weather and the phrasal verb to make it. Let's have a look at another phrasal verb and see if this one works out. Okay, so let's get the train in our mind, okay? The underground train, the tube, the metro. And this one is a get off, meaning to leave a means of transport such as a bus or a train. Quite interesting. I want to explain something here. So if you make it to the train, if you make it on time, you'll get on the train, you'll get on, and then you'll get off. most modes of transport in English is get on, get off. In Spanish, you have get up, get down. Okay? In English, we have get on, get off. The other difference, the only other difference is when we're talking about a car. In a car, you'll get in, get out. So most of you will be in a taxi or in a car or whatever. Like this, it's get in, get out. But we're talking about a train, plane, bicycle, other modes of transport. It's get on and get off. But if you think about getting into a car, because you're kind of going down, that's the difference, okay? So most is get on, get off. And another one you'll hear, actually, which is an interesting word when you're using the underground or a train, it's a kind of an old word, is to alight. To alight. You'll hear if you go to London on the underground, you'll say, if you are trying to go to Piccadilly, please alight here. Alight means to get off. Alight. And the spelling, I believe, is... I know whatever way I spell it, I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm going to double check here. Always good to have my dictionary there on my first page. Free dictionary. I use word reference. It's free. It's useful. And I'm going to look at alight. I think it's one L. That's the problem with English. You just don't know. The spelling is something you just have to learn and try and remember. And yes, alight. A-L-I-G-H-T. A-L-I-G-H-T. Bajarse, descender. Passengers alighting at the next station must move to the front of the carriage. Yes, that's quite common, actually, if you're on a train. So if you want to alight at the next station, you need to move to the front of the carriage. The carriage is the I don't know what it's called in Spanish. I have it here, actually. Let me have a look. Wagon. Wagon. Carriage is carriage. C-A-R-R-I-A-G-E. Am I right? Yes, I'm right. C-A-R-R-I-A-G-E. It might seem quite ridiculous for you guys to think that an English teacher like myself or an English-speaking person cannot remember spelling, but English is just crazy. There's no common sense to spelling. It just comes, it has an origin, the languages get mixed in, and there's no reason like you have in transparent languages. Just the spelling is something you just need to remember, and that's it. And we always forget. So don't be a hater. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Right, let's move back. 9:04 a.m. So that's how we say the time as well. In this case, it is now 9:04 in the morning. I say because often we don't say 0. I'm not going to say 9:04. I'll say 9:04. And one of the things I noticed about, just while we're on this topic of time, is in Spain you say the time like we would in Spanish. You'll say 5 past, 10 past, quarter past, half past. And then it gets a bit more complicated because we'll say 25 to, 22, quarter to, 10 to, 5 to. Okay, 1 is past and the other side of the clock is 2. What I do recommend is just jumping to the nearest 5 and just saying it more like the easy way, okay? And the easy way is it's in 5 minutes past 9. Or no, that's not the easy way. I'm telling a lie. It's it's quite complicated at the beginning. I'm going to try and find the easiest way so you don't make any mistake when you're trying to organize a meeting. So 9:20, 9:25, 9:15, 9:35, 9:40, 9:55. Or just saying the hour and then the minutes. Now we have it's 9:06. When it's maybe a bit more complicated like this, you can try and remember 9:06 or 9:05, 10 minutes past. Try and just say it as simple as possible where it's easy. And then after that, say the hour and then the minute. That's the easiest way. If you try, and I often notice with my students here, Spanish-speaking students, even though we use the same system essentially in our time, like 9:30, it does get a bit complicated. I often hear students will say 9:30, and then it starts getting messy when you're trying to use. I recommend in an international setting just saying 9:25, 7 minutes past 9, 9:07. That's my recommendation. I do find that if you live in the country, if you're living in the UK, if you're living in an English-speaking country, copy what other people around you say. It's going to be easier to remember. But if you're working in an international setting, please, I would say use, if you're on the telephone, the meeting will be at 9:45. The meeting will be at 9:30. It's just easier. It's just easier, and it's absolutely fine. Then when you go and you live in a country, you can start using a more complicated system. It's my recommendation. You do what you want to do, of course. That's just my advice. And again, I've had this situation this week. I'm going to always repeat it. If you're talking about this week, it is Monday today. If something is going to happen on Friday this week, it is this Friday. It's this Friday. Next week is next Friday. So I will repeat this often because I see it all the time. It's okay. I live here in Spain. I know generally when somebody says to me next Friday, they mean, in fact, this week. If you're talking to native people, if you work for an international company, if you're talking to native people, next Friday is next week. I have warned you, if something happens, if you write it in an email, if you say it, you will confuse the person unless you put the date. If you put the date, then you're fine. You've said it wrong. You haven't said it wrong. You've just, maybe it's a misunderstanding. But once you put the date, you're absolutely fine. So you say next Friday and then you put the date, no problem. If it's just talking, there will be confusion with native people. There will be confusion. This week, this Friday, this Thursday, this Saturday, next week, next. I hope this helps. I will repeat it again because it's very common and it just needs time. Moving on, slang of the day. Honky. This is American and I don't know it. Okay. A derogatory term in Black American slang for a white person. Okay. So in Spain, you have the term guiri for foreign people, maybe like tourists and so on. Maybe someone like myself who lives here, you'll use that term. And I suppose it's not, whenever you refer to somebody with these names, not exactly nice, I suppose. And in the United States, the Black Americans refer to white people, and it says here derogatory term, derogatory, which is not nice, as honkies. When we were visiting the Apollo Theater in Harlem in New York, a woman passing us on the street said, "What are you honkies doing round here?" I have a lot of Black American friends, and they all say they hate racist language, including anti-white words like honky. So this is a derogatory term for white people used by Black Americans. When you're talking about Black Americans, it's African American or blacks. Okay, they are accepted terms. Um, yes. So, like I say, in every country we have derogatory terms, and you don't want to get mixed up in your words in the United States, or generally with people in the UK who are black. It is black. If they are black in the United States, you can say black or African American. So if we're talking about um, using it in the office, okay, just it is difficult sometimes. You want to use the correct language. That is the term to use. And again, people of different races. Let's say we are talking about you're working in the office in the United States or in the UK. It's people of color. People of color. So if they are from, let's say, a country you don't know, somewhere in Asia, or Latin America, the term used is people of color. It's strange because if you say colored people, it is considered not. It's considered more racist. You want to be saying people of color. This is something that's very important to get right in the office. Okay, don't want to offend anybody. Slang of the day. That was that one. And saying of the day. Let's go. What is it? Facts are stubborn things. Stubborn. Always forget this word in Spanish. Stubborn. And I'm going to use my voice. I think just you guys as well. Stubborn. You can always use your dictionary very quickly. Obstinado, terco. He was stubborn and refused to admit he was era terco. Okay, stubborn. Facts are stubborn things. We cannot avoid the truth, even when it is not what we want to hear or express. So it's difficult to change facts. Stubborn is a good word. When somebody doesn't want to change their ideas or their beliefs, they are stubborn. All right, that was that. Morning coffee with me. And let's have a bit of coffee. I haven't drunk a lot today. I hope your day goes well today. Remember, one word or expression in English a day is absolutely perfect. I'm aiming to learn one Spanish word a day. Before you know it, in a month, you're talking about 30 new words. If you learn some expressions, so your vocabulary is just going to go sky high. Don't put pressure on yourselves. Take it easy. This is not school like before. And another great thing that you want to be doing is listening as much as you can. Put the radio on in the background. If you're working home office, put it on low. Your ear will get used to the radio. One radio station I recommend highly is BBC Radio 4, which is talk radio. You can find it on your devices, link it to the speakers, and that is the talk radio. I recommend that radio station. Of course, you can look for what you want. In the United States, I believe it's NPR, National Public Radio, NPR, if you're more interested in United States English. And you can mess around, but just get your ear used to it. You've got podcasts. A podcast I recommend to subscribe to for free is The Economist. Many different podcasts there. Financial Times, The Economist. Believe me, they're more interesting than you believe, because sometimes you might think, that's a bit boring, Actually quite interesting. BBC has some great podcasts too. From them, I would recommend Start the Week. And if you're a sociology one called Thinking Aloud. And that breaks down into 3 different stories or 3 different projects. And it's very interesting. The Economist is fantastic. The Intelligence. Lots and lots of free English to help your listening. Also, you've got me Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm here to help you guys with your listening. As you can see, I'm telling you about different vocabulary, different expressions. If it stays in your mind, brilliant. If not, don't worry. We'll see them again and again. Okay, quickly moving on. We only have 15 more minutes. I wanted to talk about 5 things if you are moving into a new job abroad. And let's look at these points that this guy talks about. Number 1, accent is not intelligence. So if you're moving abroad, you have a strong, distinct accent. Of course, Spanish in this case, for most of you, or if you're in South America, you have the Spanish. Well, we just say Spanish accent. Okay, you're speaking that language. Accent is not intelligence, so don't leave meetings without sharing your thoughts. Don't be intimidated. Be expressive. So your accent is just an accent. Of course, wherever you're from, you have that accent. If you're Australian, you have an Australian accent. If you're English from the UK, you're going to have an English accent. So don't worry about your accent. All you need to worry about is expressing yourself, getting your point across, and just saying something. I remember when I was learning French, I really wanted to learn, so I was there at the time. I was a student, and I was with a friend and his friends, and at the time, I remember I was sitting in the back seat of the car, and I was thinking, yeah, I'm just a passenger in all these conversations as well. I'm just like a passenger. And I thought to myself, what I need to do is I just need to get in and jump in and say something and just force myself into the conversation. And it worked. I would say I wanted to say something. I was enjoying the conversation. I understood, but I found it difficult. I just started to say something, and then people would listen to me. People would give me the time. And of course, my accent is an English accent, let's say an foreign English accent. But get in, do say something. I absolutely agree with this, number 1. Forget about your accent. Just try and focus on saying what you want to say, and you can work on your pronunciation in time. Meetups and hangouts. There is a city centre near you, and that's usually where your colleagues are catching up after work. You see that elevator that is attracting you? It's the fastest killer of careers and dreams. Don't rush home. So here what they're saying is meetups and hangouts, going to meet people, hanging out. We looked at this the other day. To hang out is to spend time with somebody. Spend time with your colleagues. Get to know them. Don't rush home if you're new to a place. Try and don't, it says, you see that elevator? Don't go there. Spend time with your colleagues. Don't rush. To rush is like to go and do something quickly. Don't rush your work. Don't do it too quickly. Do you guys agree? Do you think so? I think it's good. I do remember listening to someone talking about moving to a new place. They wanted some advice. It was on a podcast. And the guy said, say yes to everything. When somebody asks you to go somewhere or to meet up, do it. In the beginning, just do it. Sounds like some good sound advice, because you need to get to know people. So meetups and hangouts after work, do it. Okay. Find a mentor from within the company. It can be really lonely, and isolation is a killer. The trick is to find someone who would help you break that barrier in the first month. Ask someone to be your 1 month buddy and help you navigate. People really love to help, so ask. That's true, definitely in the English speaking world anyway. People do generally like to help. I know where I'm from anyway, and I lived in London as well. And there's so many foreign people visiting London, if people love to help. If you're asking for directions or something, everybody loves to help. And maybe some places are not the same. I think French people have a reputation for being like not caring, I don't want to help you, or in Paris anyway. But In the English-speaking world, and I think in most places, even in Paris as well, I had no bad experiences in Paris. People want to help, so do ask somebody if you're new in a job to be your mentor for a month to get you into the job, to show you the ways. And of course, that will benefit them. They can put on their CV that they were a mentor for a new colleague. It's a win-win. It's a win-win. Okay, next one, number 4. Don't downplay your experience. You might think America is advanced and that the work you did in Africa is not relevant, but that's not true. I have taught this to many of my friends. Share your previous experience. It's a global playground. Okay? Just because you think some places where getting experience is more important, that's not necessarily true. Everywhere has its own experience. To downplay something is to make it look like it's not so important. So don't downplay your experience. You want to emphasize it, okay? Now, number 5, culture overrides everything. So it's important you learn to pronounce people's names, learn how people behave fast, listen to podcasts to improve how to speak. You now have new friends at work, so align with them. Okay, that's pretty true. I've lived in different countries and getting used to the culture. There's so many different things, and the people who live in those places, that's just normal for them. And of course, it's different for you. The way people behave in meetings, and I think it can be something that is difficult to get used to, but definitely would agree with this. Trying to integrate, especially if you're working with the people in the local environment, it's definitely helpful. Even in just a cultural sense, if you live in a place, I live here in Spain, I try to learn the language, listen to local podcasts as well, just understand what's going on. The same, of course, when you go somewhere else. If you want to be more connected, using language that the people use, knowing what's happening in the news, bring you closer to the culture. Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, so that's 5. Let's quickly go through them again. Number 1, accent is not intelligence. 2, meetups and hangouts. Go to those meetings, meet up with your friends. Find a mentor. Don't downplay your experience, and culture overrides everything. To override means it is the most important. It will take over everything. Okay, interesting. Good article. It is 9:24 a.m. and that non-verbal, I'm going to leave that for another day because it's quite long. I want to look at that, but the last thing I want to talk about was, I'll just go over here. No, I won't. I'm going to get this image up. The last thing I wanted to talk was about a guy who was looking at a new way and how to impress employers. A lot of companies are letting people go at the moment. We're entering into difficult times, it seems. How can you make your CV unique? How can you make it stand out? One trick a guy did was he delivered pizza to the marketing team. He was working in marketing and he delivered pizza. And it was a way of making his CV stand out to look different. Was it he delivered pizza or he delivered donuts? One of those things. What do you think? Do you think it's a unique way to be remembered? He was working in marketing, so it's quite interesting. It's a novel idea. What ways can you use to make your CV stand out in these difficult times of hiring? As I said, a lot of companies now are, what are they doing? Cutting down on staff, letting go, firing, sacking, laying off, all these expressions we have. Anyway, that's it. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any comments that you want to comment on, a unique way that you can apply to a job, and something different. Been very good talking to you guys this morning. As I said, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8:30 in the morning to 9:30. And leave your comments. I will get back to you. Maybe what we'll do in the future is I'm also going to maybe send up an WhatsApp number so you guys can just contact me and I'll see it on the screen right in front of me. Okay. See you guys on Wednesday. Have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you then.